Hey everyone, welcome to Listening to Reviews. I, of course, am Alyssa, and this is my review for Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 8, The Elysian Kingdom. A spoiler warning does apply. If you have not seen through the end of this episode, then you do not want to watch this video. Okay. So let me get started with my overall thoughts of the episode. So I saw the sneak peek scene last week, which is the scene where Mabamba first discovers that the Enterprise is turning into this magical kingdom or whatever. And I saw the trailer, and I thought that this episode was going to suck. Like, I even said so on a live stream that I did a couple days ago where I was talking about how dumb this episode looks. It really looks like one of those types of episodes that I've seen before where the crew is put into some sort of fantasy world, or in some cases images of the crew are used in a holodeck in some sort of fantasy world, such as in the Next Generation episode Hollow Pursuits, where Barclay uses images of the crew to turn them into the Three Musketeers. Of course, there is the episode Cupid, where Q puts the members of the crew into the Robin Hood world. But in that case, the members of the crew do remember who they are. And there are a bunch of episodes like that all throughout Star Trek. I feel like Voyager had something like that too, but I'm blanking on what it might be. Or just various similar episodes like that. And generally speaking, those aren't great episodes. So going into this, I'm like, there's no way that this is going to be a quality episode. But Strange New World surprises me again. Like, I cannot believe how much I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this episode from beginning to end. It really had both lighthearted, really fun moments, and also really important and really touching character moments. And I think the episode that you could probably compare this most to would be Cupid. And it's funny, in that live stream that I did a couple days ago, I was actually talking about Cupid and how I don't think it is as terrible as other people do. Like, I saw it on a 10 most hated Next Generation episode list on Trek Culture, and I was like, I don't hate it. There's some funny Worf moments in it. However, overall, it's still not a great episode. So this episode of Strange New Worlds was vastly superior to an episode like Cupid, and there's a couple reasons for that. One being that the point of this fantasy world was much more meaningful and a much better character story than in an episode like Cupid or most of the other episodes that were like this. So in Cupid, it was just this stupid romance between Picard and Vosh, which wasn't really a great romance to begin with, and in the awful episode Captain's Holiday, the two characters just don't have chemistry. The actors didn't have chemistry. I don't know why they brought this back. So that was the point of Q's ridiculous scenario by putting them all on Robin Hood, and it didn't fly for me. It didn't land. And you think an episode like Hollow Pursuits, I fucking hate the whole Barclay having fantasies in the holodeck thing. I think there is no way that a person like that would rise to the rank of full lieutenant in a high position in the engineering corps on the flagship of Starfleet. There's no way he would rise to that position. So I didn't like that either. So the stories being told in these previous episodes like this were not very good. whereas this was a really good story, as it does follow up on the Dr. Mabamba and his daughter story that we've seen a couple times this season. And I am on the record as stating that I do not want this storyline to just drag out for too long, and I would like to see a resolution of that storyline with a full-on Dr. Mabamba episode sometime before the end of season 1, and my wish was granted. I got exactly that, and they did it in an incredibly unique and unexpected way. I was not expecting this kind of episode to resolve that storyline, and I'll get into the details in a few minutes, but the resolution of the storyline was very touching, and there's a lot of really good writing involved and good acting. Now, as far as all of the silly stuff that I thought was just going to be dumb and something along the lines of Cupid, it wasn't. It was quite enjoyable. It was super fun seeing all the actors from the show getting to play different characters. Anson Mount getting to play this sniveling and conniving, what do you call that dude? Court, whatever. You call that the king's assistant, whatever. And I also appreciated that it wasn't like a Hello Pursuit sparkly type of thing where, oh, Mabamba made Pike into his servant because that's how he really sees the captain and he sees himself as none of that stuff. It was just kind of random. The characters ended up being who they ended up being. It wasn't really like well thought out by this entity or anything like that, and it wasn't anything stupid like that. So I did appreciate that. And lastly, what I really appreciate about this particular story, that it wasn't a Robin Hood, it wasn't a Three Musketeers, it wasn't a trite old fairy tale or old story that we've all heard a gazillion, billion, trillion times. This story is unfamiliar to us, the audience, and in fact, is it a real story or is it something that the show made up? Because honestly, not only is it unfamiliar to us, which makes it more interesting, it's also a better story than the classic fairy tale. I want to read the actual book. It's an interesting story. And there are parallels from the king and the story to having to make a choice to what Mabamba has to do at the end, which was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So much to my surprise, I ended up thoroughly enjoying this episode in a way I never thought I would, just based on the sneak peeks and the trailers and whatnot. And lastly, another huge difference between, I know I just said lastly a couple of minutes ago, but this really is the last thing before I start diving into the details. I've got to also talk about the set designs were beautiful and the costume designs. And again, you compare that to an episode like Cupid or Hollow Pursuits, where the costumes are just cheesy and look like they were bought at a second-rate Renaissance fair or something. Like they're not very good at all. Where you should watch the Ready Room, where they do a little piece on how much attention to detail they put into these costumes, and they are fabulous. Absolutely fantastic. So everything about this episode was just high quality, which is what I can have come to expect from Strange New Worlds. All right, now, I know it's a little bit of a long intro this week, so I probably won't spend too much time getting into all of the details, but there are other things I want to talk about, so let me go ahead and dive into that now. Okay, so I want to just kind of touch on the setup scenes in the beginning. First, we have Dr. Mabamba reading to his daughter again. And when I saw this, I was hoping that we were going to get some resolution to the storyline in this episode, because this is just how much juice can you squeeze out of this story. You start to see them both getting really frustrated. The daughter is getting tired of this. And Dr. Mabamba is getting really desperate. He's realizing he's running out of time to save her. We get some key details about the story that he's reading her to kind of set up for later. One of the key details being that the king has to make this choice between the princess and the Mercury Stone, which will come into play later. And it was a good setup piece to get us back into this story with Dr. Mabamba and his daughter, and also really set the stakes high and let us know that time is running out for Dr. Mabamba to save his daughter. Also, good interactions between him and Una. Una obviously needs him to do his duties, but is also very caring and understanding, and I liked that as well. And I also liked the interaction between Spock and Pike on the bridge in the beginning, where Pike is like, I could get used to this, just these ho-hum scanning of the nebula, nothing exciting, no big battles or aliens taking over the ship or anything. And Spock is like, Captain, you tell me all the time that that when something is good, you don't say it aloud. And then later Spock goes, or, in fact, Captain, you did jinx it. I love Spock. I think this is completely out of character for Spock. Honestly, I can't imagine the Leonard Nimoy Spock doing this, but I still love it. Also, I love that Ortegas says to Pike, "You're gonna say the thing? You're gonna say it?" And he's like, "Yeah, hit it." And then nothing happens when she does it, and he's like, I said hit it. She's like, I'm hitting it, sir. So I like the setup for this episode. Then we get the hook, which was the sneak peek scene that was shown last week. They show it at the end of the Ready Room, but I don't even have to watch the Ready Room. You can just watch it right on YouTube. So watch the sneak peek scene every week. And where Dr. Mabamba goes to the bridge, and then suddenly he's in this kingdom and he's the king. So we get the introduction to the different characters, and I love Anson Mount's performance in this, getting to play a completely different type of character. And I'll repeat again that I do appreciate that he wasn't playing this character because Mabamba had some secret desire to be above the captain or any bullshit like that. So I did appreciate that they didn't go there, and I could just sit back and enjoy Anson Mount's performance. And then the woman who plays Ortegas, Melissa something, was also fantastic, getting to be in a different role. And this is actually the most to do that this actress has had on an episode, and I loved it. I'm still waiting for Ortegas the character to have more to do, and I'm waiting for that Ortegas centric episode, but I do not think we're gonna get that in the next 2 episodes this season, so probably have to wait to season 2 to get our Ortegas-centric episode. But I want more Ortegas. There's another character I want more of, I'll get to in just a second. But I was happy to see that this actress, at least, had a lot to do in this episode. And the interactions between her and Pike, the bickering between these two characters, was really fun. And there was great chemistry between the two actors, which there is even in regular episodes when they're Ortegas and Captain Pike, but we don't get to see it as much. It's usually just a quip here and there, whereas in this episode, they really got to play off of each other a lot more, even if they were playing different characters. So that was fun. Seeing Leon being this prissy princess who just spontaneously sings. See, that's a thing that I saw on the trailer, and I thought, that looks so dumb, but then when I saw it in context of the episode, I thought it was hilarious. I actually highly enjoyed it, especially knowing what Leon is like before the transformation, how she normally is like. And it must have been really fun for this actress, too, to get to play a completely different character. But I did have to ask myself, where the hell did this dog come from? Does Leon normally have that dog? So in real life, which we found out from the Ready Room, that actual dog belongs to the actual actress who plays Leon Noonian saying, but as far as the dog in the show, it's like, does Leon actually have that dog? She doesn't seem like somebody who would have a dog. So I guess we gotta chalk it up for the dog was created in the same way that all the trees and vines and all that crap was created. So other characters, Spock was fantastic as the evil wizard. It really fit him with his long, like, he looked like an 80s rock band slash, like, you know, Lord of the Rings knockoff elf kind of thing. But it worked for him. He didn't peck crushed it. Loved seeing Una as the huntress. That worked well. I thought Una was going to end up being the queen, but I think it worked better to have a horror being, and especially since when you look back at the storybook, we had gotten a glimpse of it earlier, and the queen is African American, so Ahura actually kind of looks like the queen from the pictures, so that all made sense. And on the Ready Room, the actress for Ahura was talking about how fun it was to play this evil queen, and you can tell, like, she's just having a blast. But other than the Dr. Mabamba story, which I'll get to in just a minute, the other standout character in story in this episode is Hemmer, who we finally get. I've been calling for Hemmer 3 consecutive episodes, 0 Hemmer, not for 1 second in the past 3 episodes. And I was saying, well, T'Pring is more of a main character than Hemmer is. I want Hemmer. And now after this episode and seeing him in this episode, more Hemmer, more Hemmer. I loved him in this episode. We need this character more. He too will need a centric episode, but I don't see it happening in the final 2, so we'll probably have to wait for season 2 for that as well. But I need more Hemmer in my Strange New Worlds. And we get to see another side of him. And I appreciate that he gets to be someone besides Mabamba who knows what's really going on. I think it would have been less interesting if Mabamba was the only one. And the explanation makes sense. He uses telepathic powers to block out the entity. Not really an explanation for why Mabamba wasn't affected, other than he's the father of the person who is at the center of all this. So, which I'll accept. I'll take that as the explanation. That's fine. But it didn't make sense for Hemmer. And what I really enjoyed about him and this episode is that we had only really seen the really serious side of Hemmer. And in this episode, he gets to ham it up a little bit. And I was actually a little surprised that Hemmer went along with the performance the way he did and was having fun with it. And he's like, I'm the wizard. I'm going to use my magical powers to use powers. It was so fun to watch this character. And he's like, Abracadabra, and then beams him away. I loved this character so much, and I want more of him. More Hemmer, more. I need to create a sign and start walking around. More Hemmer, more Hemmer. So absolutely loved in his interactions with Mabamba all throughout this episode. Fantastic. My one complaint with this character is I wish that he got to keep his memories too. I don't like the fact that Mabamba is the only one who remembers any of this, because then there's always that question that Mabamba would be asking himself, did this really happen? Or did my daughter just die and I imagine all of this other stuff? Like, if you have another character who remembers it, then that kind of helps Mabamba to keep his sanity and realize that it did really happen, although I don't think they'll follow up much with it after this episode. But I didn't understand why he would lose his memory. It seems like anyone who wasn't affected by the entity should keep their memory. So I felt like Hemmer should have kept his memory. So that, to me, was a bit off. Now, let me finish up here by talking about specifically Mabamba's relationship with his daughter. So I loved the reveal that this wasn't about Mabamba all along, it was about his daughter. I kind of suspected that that was probably the case, but I loved how they folded that into the story. And I like how he first figured it out, which was that Ortegas' character and Una's character were a thing. And he's like, wait, they don't even know each other in the book. But his daughter wanted them to know each other. So his daughter basically was shipping these two characters. So when these two characters, were an item, then Mabamba was like, wait, that's what my daughter wanted. And side note, I'm shipping Ortegas and Una. I think they had great chemistry. I think that they should hook up. I don't know if it's been revealed that either of them, are bisexual or pansexual or gay or whatever, but I don't care. I think those two characters need to hook up. I love the chemistry that we saw between them. They really did look like they were in a relationship. Anyway, so his daughter is shipping these characters. And that is how Mabamba pieces it together. And turns out all he had to do all along was just go back to his quarters instead of running around the ship, and he would have found her. But what I appreciate here is the parallels drawn to the story where the king has to make a choice between the Mercury Stone and saving the princess, which I was a bit disappointed that the princess, which was the Lan character, just kind of disappeared and we don't see her again, although she is actually a big part in the story. But that's fine. So here, the choice that he has to make is between his daughter and the crew. And he said, please don't make me make that choice. And you can see the moral dilemma and how the actor portrayed it was absolutely brilliant. And it ends up being the daughter who makes the choice to stay with this entity and, just become basically like an energy being, but get to live and get to be free and get to write her own stories, which is what Mabamba had set up for at the beginning of the episode. Maybe one day you'll get to write your own stories. And it was a very touching scene for Mabamba having to make the choice to let his daughter go. He had spent so much time and energy trying to save his daughter, and had actually taken away from his duties. And I loved the scene when she comes back as an adult, because time passes differently for her, and tells him to please go and live his life. And not gonna lie, a little bit of water happening in my eyes. Not gonna lie, found it to be a very touching scene. The Mabamba has to make this choice now to let his daughter go. Not only really touching and heart-wrenching, but also really beautiful, and well written and well acted by everyone involved. Okay, it's time once again for me to give my rating out of 10 for this episode. So 1 would be the lowest possible score, 10 would be the highest possible score, and my rating out of 10 for Season 1, Episode 8 of Strange New Worlds, The Elysian Kingdom, is a shocking 9. I can't believe I'm giving this episode a 9. When I saw the trailer and the sneak peek for this episode, I thought that I would be extremely fortunate if this ended up being a 7 quality episode. I thought a 7 out of 10 was a pie in the sky dream, and I thought this episode was going to really suck just based on other episodes like it that I've seen in the past, such as Cupid. But this episode really surprised me, as Strange New Worlds overall continues to surprise me by taking seemingly trite or stupid story concepts and making them into really great emotional character stories, as well as having a lot of fun along the way. This episode was a perfect balance of a really strong character story with a lot of fun. Probably one of the better episodes of the season, and I can't believe that I'm saying that. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and it is a surprising 9 out of 10 for me. That does it for this week's review. Please join me next week as I review Season 1, Episode 9 of Strange New Worlds. And please, if you have not already, subscribe for all my other content. I did a review of Star Trek VI recently, and I've got Obi-Wan reviews up. I've got all kinds of fun stuff for Pride Month this month. So check out all of that. Please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, like, comment, all of those wonderful things, and I will see you soon.